Everyone in the compound knew one thing. If Madam Kudirat ever smiled at you, something bad was about to happen. She didn't smile often, and when she did, people avoided her eyes. Tenants said that smile usually came before rent increases, sudden eviction threats, or public humiliation. Some people had cried in that compound. Others had left quietly in the middle of the night. A few never spoke about what happened to them at all. Madam Kudirat owned the compound, and she ruled it with fear. Rent was collected with insults. Late payment meant shouting. Complaints meant punishment. Doors had been removed before. Electricity had been cut deliberately. She enjoyed reminding people that the house was hers and their lives inside it were temporary. One afternoon, a new tenant arrived with a small bag and calm eyes. Her name was Zainab. She paid a full year's rent without argument and accepted the smallest room at the back of the compound. Madam Kudirat smiled that familiar smile, already planning how to control her like the others. Zainab greeted everyone politely but didn't talk much. She came and went quietly. She never joined arguments. When Madam Kudirat shouted at other tenants, Zainab listened without reacting. That was the first thing that unsettled the landlady. Fear was her language and Zainab didn't speak it. 2 weeks later, Madam Kudirat accused Zainab of bringing visitors at night. Without knocking, she pushed her way into the room and began shouting. Zainab stood up slowly and told her, calmly, that she should never enter someone's room without permission. The compound went silent. Nobody had ever spoken to Madam Kudirat that way. She laughed loudly and warned Zainab that people who challenged her never lasted long in her house. Zainab didn't argue. She only looked at her and said nothing more. From that day, Madam Kudirat watched her closely. Sleep stopped coming easily for Madam Kudirat. She woke up tired and irritable. She misplaced money. She forgot which tenants owed rent. Sometimes she stood in the compound and couldn't remember why she came outside. Whenever she saw Zainab, her chest tightened. She began to feel like she was being watched in her own house. The power she once enjoyed no longer felt secure. Tenants noticed changes too. Water flowed more often. The generator was no longer locked. Madam Kudirat stopped shouting at night. She stayed indoors, watching from behind her curtains. One evening, she called Zainab and demanded to know why things were changing. Zainab asked her a simple question. Did she remember a woman who lived in room 4 many years ago? Madam Kudirat's face changed. Zainab spoke slowly. She mentioned the sickness, the unpaid rent, the rain, the locked gate, the way that woman begged while holding her child. Madam Kudirat shouted for her to stop talking and ordered her out of her sight. But that night the dreams came. Faces she had forgotten filled her sleep. Voices begged her to open gates she had once locked. The next day, Madam Kudirat confronted Zainab again. This time her voice shook. She asked what Zainab wanted. Zainab told her she wanted her to remember everything. She said her mother's name. Madam Kudirat staggered backward. Years ago, Zainab's mother had rented a room in that compound. She fell sick and couldn't pay rent on time. Madam Kudirat dragged her belongings outside and locked the gate during a storm. She died before morning. Zainab had watched it happen. She told Madam Kudirat she didn't return for revenge. She returned because some debts don't disappear. They wait. That night, rain poured heavily. Power went out across the area, but lights flickered inside the compound. Tenants gathered outside, uneasy. Madam Kudirat came out trembling, calling Zainab's name, begging her to stop. Zainab told her she had already stopped. What was happening now was simply consequences catching up. The wind roared. The compound gate slammed shut on its own. Doors rattled violently. Tenants ran into their rooms and locked themselves inside. By morning, Madam Kudirat was gone. Daylight revealed an empty house. Madam Kudirat's room was neat. Her clothes were folded. Her money untouched. Her keys lay on the table. No sign of struggle. No note. No explanation. Days passed. No police report. No relatives came searching. It was as if she had never existed. Zainab packed her bag and left quietly. No goodbye. No forwarding address. Months later, the compound was sold. Rent was reduced. The shouting ended. Tenants lived peacefully for the first time in years. People said the house felt lighter, like something heavy had finally lifted. Some say Madam Kudirat ran away. Others say she lost her mind. But those who lived in that compound know one thing. People who build their lives on cruelty never escape it. It may take years, but it always remembers the way back.